Welcome to Fox 26's Town Hall. Your voice, your future. Bullying in school. Sponsored by Future Kia of Clovis and Kauai Health. More than medicine, life. Moderating tonight's broadcast, Fox 26 news anchor Kim Stephens.
Good evening and welcome to our special Fox 26 Town Hall meeting, Bullying in School. We're so glad that you're here with us tonight. Over the next hour, there is so much to cover, and an hour just won't feel like enough, but we're going to do our darndest. We're going to be taking a look at the very important impacts that bullying has on so many families as we are moving ahead to National Bullying Prevention Month, which is the month of October. We are coming to you live from the beautiful Fresno Mission City Center, and we really thank the City Center for hosting this for us tonight. Also, a special thanks to Fox 26 Monty Torres. He's also here tonight sharing questions from our viewers and also comments as well. Monty?
Thank you, Kim. We would really like to hear from all of you tonight, those of you watching on this important subject. You can send your questions and comments to our news desk at kmph.com or through the Fox 26 Facebook page. We invite you to please join tonight's conversation.
Absolutely. And we'll be checking in with Monty throughout this evening. But first, we would like to thank our sponsors, Future Kia of Clovis and Kauai Health, for helping us bring together this town hall meeting. Hey, StopBullying.gov reports that 20% of students ages 12 through 18 experience bullying. And that's not just in our community, but it's in communities across our country. It's 1 in 5. It's just hurtful, and it really does affect so many. So let's talk about what exactly bullying is first. Almost 10 years ago, the CDC officially defined bullying as unwanted aggressive behavior, observed or perceived power imbalance, and repetition or high likelihood of repetition of bullying behaviors. Now, over the next hour, we will examine a lot of different issues or aspects to this. What leads kids to bully? What behaviors should parents look out for in their child? What are the different types of bullying? What can parents do if their child is being bullied? And what consequences can happen if those who are bullying, what they face outside of school? Now, we're honored to have a panel of experts joining us tonight. Abel Ruiz is Assistant Site Director at Aspen Ridge Public School here at City Center. He's also been a middle school science teacher, and he holds a Master of Education in Educational Leadership. Carolina Lopez is an academic counselor at Aspen Ridge Public School here at the City Center. She holds dual degrees in psychology and business administration. She was also a learning director before joining the Aspen Ridge team. Dr. Corey Jakes is the director of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry Fellowship Program at Kauai Health. He says it gives him life to be able to help others get through tough times, especially our youth. Dr. Jakes is also a volunteer with the local LGBTQ resource center called The Source. Kentina Johnson is an associate professional clinical counselor with the Resiliency Center of Fresno. She is a certified trauma professional and certified trauma-informed trainer. She works with coaches for the RISE program. That stands for Resilience in Student Education. It teaches kids the principles of compassion, caring, and responsibility. Brian Riddle is Madera Unified's District Culture and Climate Coach. He works with teachers and teams to strengthen a safe and supporting school culture. He's taught and coached in Madera Unified. He's been the athletic director at Madera South High School and vice principal at Thomas Jefferson Middle School. Brittany Beer is a longtime school psychologist with Clovis Unified. She's worked with many school groups, including peer counseling and Clovis support and intervention. So we thank all of them for being here tonight and sharing their expertise and insight. But before we get to those experts, we would like to hear from members of our community directly, the experts who are, well, at our schools right now. And here they are. We have freshman Jaden Hooks, sophomore Alex Coleman, sophomore Sylvester Taylor, junior Leslie Casino Silva, and junior Bailey McPherson. Thank you all for being here tonight. And we're just going to start right off. And I'm going to start with you, Jaden, and we'll work our way down, okay? What type of bullying do you see every day or commonly, or what do you hear is happening from your peers?
Mostly it's verbal bullying because, people, they argue a lot, and it's at some point, yes, it gets annoying.
Was it saying like you are dumb, I don't like your pants, or moving into more hurtful things?
Mostly because, we're on a small campus. It's, obviously, quickly some situations can get resolved. So some stuff doesn't get that,
Doesn't escalate?
Yeah, that
Okay.
quickly.
That's good. Alex, what about you?
Kind of like what Jaden was saying, it's a lot of verbal bullying. It doesn't tend to get physical, but there are times that can happen. And it kind of like she was also saying before, it's a lot of, oh, I don't like your clothes, you're dumb, how could you not do this? Sometimes, though, it definitely can escalate to a lot more personal topics.
Sure, that can really dig deep. What about you, Sylvester?
Kind of agreeing what Alex and Jaden were saying, but it's not necessarily just verbal bullying. It can also be cyberbullying. People here at our school typically like to go towards your insecurities, things that really get you the most. And, it's also a lot of just rudeness. And, since we are at a small campus, it's like everyone's in your face. So there's really, it can also feel like there's not a lot of distance, and you're really in everyone's face, so you don't get any free time. Sometimes it could also feel like you don't get a break from it, and it could also lead you to not feeling like you're able to reach out for help.
Okay, Leslie, is this sounding familiar to you, or anything different?
Yeah, definitely. It's very similar. It's very familiar to me. I think most of the time bullying just stems from other kids being petty or arguments that have happened with other children. Yeah, sometimes it does escalate, and sometimes teachers aren't able to resolve those problems before it gets to the point of physical altercations. But other than that, most of it just stems from petty arguments or just people insulting other kids.
Okay, Bailey?
In my experience, I've been a peer counselor for 5 years now, so a lot of the situations that students come to me is regarding bullying, and a lot of the times it involves social media and cliques. Cliques can be pretty ruthless if you're not cool enough or just in the proper social status at school. It can be pretty ruthless, and social media doesn't help at all.
Yeah, that's true, and I do want to jump into more of that in a moment. But the forms of bullying, what are the forms that are the most prevalent? You had said that it's just saying mean things, right? But you had also said that can you get away from it once you're off campus, right? Or when you get home and you've got social media. Is it now carrying with you home?
Yes, because stuff spreads very quickly through social media, and usually if we go on school breaks or whatever, there's drama happening on social media, and then when we come back, there's just more drama, and everyone's it's all over the place.
Like it never ends, huh, Alex?
Definitely, like she said, it can very much carry over to social media. And sometimes I feel it can actually get worse on social media because you can remain anonymous. Whereas if you were in school, they know who you are. They could report you if needed.
Yeah. And you said that too, Sylvester, that sometimes you just feel like you can't get away from it.
Yeah, here at our school, we do have a lot of social media accounts that they are pretty hard to take down because, as Alex was saying, you can remain anonymous. So if you don't know who is at the root of all these rude things being said, there's really no way to stop it, and it makes you feel like there's no end to it.
Get sucked into a hole in blackness and you can't get out. Leslie?
I think social media takes a big part in bullying at our school, just because it's such a small campus. Everyone knows everybody's drama. Everybody knows everyone's problems. And with social media, it just kind of spreads out to the public. And even though we're going home at the end of the day, we still are left with the problems from social media and all the drama.
Yeah. Bailey?
At Clovis West, I think we have a more typical campus. We have about 500 students per class, so I don't think bullying is necessarily a problem on campus, because a lot of the times it's comments that by itself wouldn't seem that bad, but over the course of the year, as it builds up and repeats, it does, become a lot for a student. I think it becomes a really big emotional issue when it follows you home over social media, as everybody else was saying.
Right. Okay, so we know it's out there. We know that it is happening in a number of different forms. And Bailey, I'm going to start with you and come on down. All right, so Jaden, you're not the first one every time. And the question is, more and more schools and peer counseling and leadership groups are coming up with, or teachers and community members are coming up with anti-bullying messages. Do you think that they work, the ones that you have seen, or what have you seen that does work or can work?
In Clovis Unified, I think we've done a really good job with trying to discourage bullying with all of our support groups, such as peer counseling, CSI, peer mediation, all of those things. I think sometimes anti-bullying messages don't work when it's only speaking to victims of bullying and not to the people who are actually, like the perpetrators, who are actually doing the harm. I think sometimes students can pass it off as, oh, whatever, it's another video, which is just the nature of teenagers. But yeah, I think it really depends on the students that it's being presented to and the context of the video.
Okay, and I'm just going to ask one of you if you have any other insight into this. I see you nodding your head.
I think that, are you asking me like for ways?
Yeah, anti-bullying. Have you seen anything that really works, or is it lame?
Typically things that I see that work are like dramatic measures that work. Like, oh, if you're caught bullying, you'll be like suspended or stuff like that. Also, I've seen like a lot of racial bullying type of things going on like that. And our principal, Mr. Reese, he has been saying, like, if you are caught being racist or bullying of any sort, there will be, like, a lot of dramatic measures being taken place.
All
so
right.
I think that has really helped.
You know, we're taught pretty early on that if you see, somebody being treated poorly, that you step in, you be kind, intervening. It can be easy when you're in kindergarten and first grade, maybe, because you're young and you're innocent. Maybe as we get older and we see more things or harder things, it may be more difficult. But now I'm going to start with you again, Jaden. Do you see very often people intervening and helping the person who is being bullied or stopping the bully?
Not as much, because people are just, consumed by watching the drama happen and just, obsessed. And yeah, so you don't really see it as much.
Okay, Alex?
I feel that the students don't necessarily try to intervene as much because they feel they could end up being roped into it at the end of the day. I feel only if it were to really get out of hand, the only one that would step in is like someone like the teacher or a nearby staff member that was already there and was witnessing it. Otherwise, there aren't really that many students that necessarily want to intervene nor actually do.
Yeah. All right. Bailey, I'm going to go back to you about peer counseling. You talked about being a peer counselor. So how effective do you think this can be or is in your experience?
A lot of the students that come to peer counseling because they really want help. And I think those are the students that definitely benefit the most from it. I think peer counseling, if used correctly, can be really beneficial because it can link students into community and to learn communication skills and learn how to build the confidence to stand up for themselves or stand up for others, and how to cope with drama or bullying or whatever it may be. I think with the right training, it can be really effective.
Okay, but usually the people who come to you are the ones who are being bullied, right? Does a bully ever come and say, you know, I think I need some help because I've been mean?
I personally have never experienced that, but that would be a really cool experience to have. We do have things like peer mediation, which is when two students who are having a conflict have a conversation mediated by usually two peer counselors and sometimes an adult, depending on the situation, where we find a common ground and a solution for both students. In that case, then that would be the bully and the victim kind of
Together. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your insight, all five of you. We really appreciate your time tonight. It is time for a break, but coming up, we will take a look at what makes a bully. What behaviors should parents be looking for in their children? And what could parents be doing early on to make children maybe more resilient, a little more Teflon, I suppose, to those who do pick on them? We'll be right back. All right, and we also have some other information we'd like to share with you when it comes to support, hotlines to offer support. For these are specifically for teenagers. If you miss any of these numbers, don't worry, because you can find them again on our website, kmph.com.
You're watching Fox 26's Town Hall. Your voice, your future. Bullying in school. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Fox 26's Town Hall. Your voice, your future. Bullying in school.
I am not ugly. I could be a model. Yeah, I have a really long nose. Sometimes I don't point directions. I just tell people, go over there, and they start walking. You have the cutest little button nose.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty ugly.
You are watching a presentation earlier this month at Kings Canyon Unified Schools. Mental health influencer Brooks Gibbs showed hundreds of kids to not be bothered by people's mean words or actions. According to the CDC, reports of bullying are highest in middle schools, 28%. That's followed by high schools at 16%, and then 9% of those reporting bullying in elementary schools. We are now going to go to our experts who are already out of school. We talked to the younger ones earlier. And Dr. Jakes, I'd like to start with you right here in the middle. Where do you find bullying stems from?
Oh, that's a million-dollar question. If I knew where it stemmed from, I think none of us would have to be here today.
Yeah.
I think in general, I would say that bullying starts at home. I think that children are not born bad. I think they are taught how to be bad. And I think sometimes they're mimicking things that they might see at home, sometimes things on TV, but typically it starts with the people we're closest to, which are people at home.
Okay. Cantina, what about you? What have you seen?
I see a lot of kids who are just trying to survive. They are trying to make themselves secure in both the bully and the victim.
And what about the pandemic? How has that played a role? Anyone want to share about that?
I mean, I can start. It's played a role in a variety of ways, which we're still seeing today and trying to figure out. I mean, I think the most significant thing that we underestimated is that kids missed out on huge developmental milestones. That we as adults don't really necessarily experience. But if you go back to your youth and you think about the different things you had to learn in 7th grade versus 9th grade, socially, the skills that you have to go through are completely different. And a lot of kids ended up going from 6th grade to now all of a sudden they're in 8th grade and expected to navigate that world, and they just couldn't do it. They couldn't figure it out. And so they've kind of taken it out on each other or, you know, shut down, and seeing a lot of kids refusing to go to school nowadays. So it's complicated things in ways that I never expected.
Yeah. Abel, what about you? What have you seen directly in your classrooms?
Yeah, I would have to agree. A lot of the kids came back lacking the age-appropriate social skills that we're still trying to teach them, even today through our SEL lessons, and getting them back up to having appropriate age-appropriate conversations.
Carolina, does it feel like you're making headway now that we're in a new school year and the pandemic is getting further behind us?
I think that every day we're making headway, but we still have a long way to go. So in our school, we have social emotional learning taught in our homerooms, and I feel like that is making a difference, but because they missed out on those critical years, it will take some time for them to catch up. But we see progress every day, but there's still a long way to go.
Sure. Brian, what about you? In this lack of interaction or a different interaction just on a screen, things can be misinterpreted pretty easily, and then you carry that on now that we're back in person. Have you seen that?
You know, I think that time off, one of the things that I've really noticed is the awareness of words that kids hear. They recognize the impact it has on them, but I think also they don't understand truly the power of their words. And so a lot of things that they do say, they don't really truly understand because of the lack of social skills that they've had of how that hurts or harms others around them. So we're seeing that a lot, and, you know, and that's where we're working. Like they shared, we're also doing social emotional learning, and we're doing things, we're encouraging teachers who stand at the door to greet those students to help build some of those social interactions and those positive connections with our students to help combat some of that.
Okay. And Brittany, what about you?
I think what we were unprepared for with the pandemic was, in part, access to social media, and also that we forget that our students have always looked to adults for their models first and foremost. And so now, rather than having consistent adults through the education system that they're able to look to for that modeling, now they're looking to the internet. So they're looking at social media. And unfortunately, we don't usually see that the best side of humanity is portrayed through social media. So as a result, they start to see that as the norm, and they think that that's appropriate behavior to mimic. And so not only is it a matter of kind of undoing what was previously learned and now teaching new skills, but it's also teaching people to extend grace and reminding them that we are all going through this process together as teachers, as administrators, as students. Everybody is trying to do the best that they can, and sometimes we get it wrong, but at the end of the day, we get to try it all over again and do the best that we can the next day.
Yeah, very true. All right, let's check in with Monty to find out some of the questions that viewers are asking that we'd like to help answer. Monty?
Thank you, Kim. We've actually had a pretty big response to this subject, bullying, in the days leading up to tonight's town hall, with people sending in their questions or comments. Kathy Snow, an 8th grade ELA teacher from Lemoore, writes, as a middle school teacher, I deal with bullying much more than I would like. Most often, the bullying is happening digitally. Students are now connected to their source of the bullying, digital devices, 24/7. What can be done to educate parents on the importance of constantly checking their children's phones, tablets, laptops, etc., as well as disconnecting from devices whenever possible? And I have a second question as well. Let me give both to your panel, and I will let them respond. A mother who asked not to be identified writes, an incident occurred at my son's school, which the school called a prank. But it's nothing close to the definition of a prank. I've already spoken with vice principals, the athletic director, and principal. The school is not taking our incident seriously. So the subjects are, again, digital bullying and prank or bullying. First of all, let me thank both of you for sending in your questions. We also invite you watching right now to be a part of this conversation. Please keep those questions coming. Send them to newsdesk@kmph.com or through the FOX26 Facebook page. Kim?
Monty, thank you. All right, well, let's start with the last one first, and that's the pranks. Who would like to speak to that?
I'll kind of speak to that, talking about teasing versus bullying, and we see teasing as like something that's equal, like maybe a friend, maybe a sibling, and they're having this like kind of going back and forth. They are both laughing, and the thing stops. They have that relationship, and it stops. The bullying, ongoing. It's just, it's here, it's here, it's here, it's here, and it's a power struggle. It's this vulnerable child who is being overpowered by another who has the intention of hurting them, physically, psychologically, emotionally, socially, however it comes. And it's intended for that, and it doesn't stop. So looking at that and seeing that thing as this is a bullying, we have to notice it for that and then really react.
Yeah. There are times with friends and family I realize that the sarcasm has gone too far and it's become hurtful rather than just something we're all laughing about. What about the digital? Who wants to speak to the digital bullying?
Well, what about the digital bullying? I mean, you can talk a lot about digital bullying. I mean, I think it's a complicated issue, and I think what the parent was asking was, what can we do to monitor our children's phones, things like that. In my experience, I haven't found that parental monitoring of kids' phones ends up being all that effective. Children will find a way to get on social media, whether it's through a friend's house, whether it's through their Chromebook, through school. They'll find a way around their parents, I think. And by the time it gets onto social media, it's almost too late. I have a child I'm treating that is being bullied, ended up on TikTok with some adult that was body shaming a teenager. I looked up the video. It now has 30 million views. So this child, you know, in my generation, you were bullied on the playground, you went home, it was done, it was over with.
Right.
This is now in perpetuity on the internet, being bullied in front of the whole entire world. There's no escaping it. There's no way you can take down something that's been viewed 30 million times across the world. So I think it's more a matter of, you know, really teaching our kids to be resilient. And I think that's kind of the overall message is becoming resilient, because bullies are out there. They're still out there. As an adult, I run the risk of being bullied. I've been bullied. I can walk down the street and have homophobic slurs thrown at me, even as an adult. And it's about building the strength to hold your head up high and keep walking.
Yeah. Sometimes I have nightmares still about a moment on the playground when I was younger, and these two girls who I say hi to them now at our reunions, but it was hurtful. Now, thinking back, was it really bullying, or were they, I don't know, and you got to move on. But, like, you got to be resilient. How? How do you build resiliency in yourself, Quintina?
Well, we have our RISE coaches who are going into our first grade classrooms and teaching resiliency to our littles. And resiliency really has 6 components, and I may forget some of them, but I'm going to go for it. It's empathy, self-regulation, being able to have causal effects and analysis, being able to jump in and think of other people. The whole of it is thinking of others and recognizing yourself, recognizing your value, and seeing and being able to do what you can in that moment.
Okay. And rise, right? Rise above it. Anybody else have anything about resiliency that you've been able to incorporate in your class or school?
In the Clovis West area where I work, we're really utilizing the CASTLE model, the 5 core competencies, looking at like self-awareness, social awareness, self-regulation. I think what we have come to find is that when we look at it from a skill development standpoint, it's much easier to track and monitor progress in that capacity. Resiliency isn't typically something that just happens overnight. Typically, it's done when a person understands themselves, their challenges, their strengths. They know how to utilize their strengths to overcome their challenges, and they at the heart know who they are, and they have the ability to regulate and move through difficult situations by having effective coping skills, self-care plans. And so we are seeing that typically our students that are demonstrating high levels of resiliency have a number of those skills embedded through school and through home. We're having some of those difficult, awkward conversations, and we're embracing them rather than shying away from them. And in doing so, it's really allowing them to be vulnerable and look deeper within themselves.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, it's time for another break. So when we come back, we will explore different types of bullying, what parents should do if they believe that their child is being bullied, and what tools are available to the students, including an app that one local district has been using to help their students report incidents anonymously. Here's some more hotlines to help you and your family find help and support. Again, some of these are specifically for teenagers. If you miss any of these numbers, you can always get them again by going to our website, kmph.com.
You're watching Fox 26's Town Hall. Your voice, your future. Bullying in school. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Fox 26's Town Hall. Your voice, your future. Bullying in school.
Chances are that some of us have seen examples of behavior that could be harmful to our friends and classmates and said nothing. Maybe we had harmful thoughts ourselves, and it never occurred to us to ask for help. That doesn't sound like us. If we're really dedicated to growing into the best versions of ourselves, if we truly believe that together we rise, that means we can't leave anyone behind.
Is a video made by Madera Unified students to encourage their classmates from 4th up to 12th grade to download the Stop It app. It provides an anonymous platform for students to report bullying, harassment, and other safety concerns to their school. Brian, how long has Madera Unified been using this Stop It app, and what's the response been?
So the app was first introduced by our safety director in 2017, and his initial goal was to help provide a opportunity for students to voice their concern about safety concerns. And over the last couple of years, we've noticed that it's kind of gravitated to this tool where students are reporting bullying and harassment. And so we saw in this last year about 180 students since the beginning of the school year has reported things from other friends of self-harm to harassment, bullying, and most of the reports, about 40% of the reports are based on bullying and harassment. So the response has been pretty well from the students. Since the last couple of years, I want to say out of all the students that it's eligible for, there's been about 8,000 downloads of the app.
Wow.
From the students in Mid-Area Unified. And it's also available to them on their Chromebooks through their Clever accounts. So students also have access to that because some students might not have phones. So they still have means to be able to report and share those informations in those instances.
So there is a way that technology can be helpful and not just hurtful.
Yes, yes. And also on school websites, if you go to your school's website in Mid-Area Unified, on their bully tab, they have a thing where parents can also download. And we've had instances where grandmas or moms or dads have reported as well, because a kid will come home and tell parent, and, oh, you know, don't tell because I don't want more trouble.
Right.
So the parent will use the app as well. So we've gotten reports of that way as well.
Great resource. A little earlier, before the break, we were talking about resiliency and finding a way to feel better about yourself and find what you love and express it. All right, we have a lot of students and young people really finding ways to express themselves now, whether it's, bold new colors in the hair or their clothes, or maybe something even that has to do with their identity, or coming to a position where they feel like they now are finding themselves embracing an identity they had never knew they had or felt proud enough to share. But that also then, Dr. Jakes, is leading to bullying.
Yes, it is. And I think it's one of the most beautiful thing about this generation of children is they really are redefining how we express identity and gender expression, sexual orientation, all of these different things. They're finding new and beautiful ways and really breaking societal norms. And I think we've done a great job in supporting our children in doing that. I think we've pushed a little bit too far, and that sometimes we send them the message that everybody has to accept you, where really the truth is that people are not going to accept you. People are going to find reasons to want to find something wrong with you and point out your flaws. And where the resiliency comes in is teaching them, be proud of who you are, and people are not going to accept you, but be yourself anyways. And I think we need to get rid of this expectation that people are going to be nice, because they're not. People are mean. It's just it's just the fact that people are mean, and it's going to happen.
Okay, not everyone is going to like you.
I know,
right.
But it's true. I think we need to continue to express ourselves as best as we can, but hold your head high and do it with some sense of pride.
Yeah. StopBullying.gov says that 19% of students in grades 9 through 12 report being bullied at school, on the property, and most of the time in the hallways or the classrooms. 15% said that they were bullied online or by text. So, Brittany, I'd like to ask, what happens after a child reports being bullied? Are the parents notified?
So typically what happens after a student makes us aware, they can do so in several capacities. We utilize an anonymous reporting system as well. It's a link that parents, students, anybody can access if they want to report something that they've seen. And so the first thing that happens is that an investigation is launched, because we obviously want to make sure that we are collecting information, but we want to make sure that we're doing so in a way that considers all different perspectives and that we're getting a full picture. And so as our administration team and our discipline department goes through that process, they are absolutely making sure that they collaborate and communicate with parents, while also making sure that we are respecting FERPA and that we're not sharing identifying information regarding anybody else that's involved. But one of the things that is typically done in that process, as the team is making those different determinations, is we're looking at things like conflict resolution. We're looking at peer mediation in different capacities, in which not only can we go through the process of making sure that we respond appropriately and that consequences or such is given, but that we're going back to the root of the issue. The root of the issue is the behavior that occurred initially, and we can't expect that we are going to change behavior until we get back to that. And so we're constantly trying to look at, yes, how can we respond appropriately, but more importantly, how can we make whatever adjustments we can, or what can we teach so that hopefully something like this does not happen in the future.
Well, Caroline, I see that you are definitely nodding your head, and I'd like to know if you'd like to add anything to what Brittany was saying, but also what about parents and taking accountability if their child is the one who is the bully?
I feel that when we let parents know that their child is the bully, they're never, well, most of the time they are shocked, but they appreciate knowing what is going on because then they can address the issue at home. And having that support at home makes the biggest change at school. Maybe there isn't a change right away, but at least it starts the process. And there can be something that can be done about bullying when parents are involved. So I do fully support, and we encourage parent involvement as much as possible.
Okay. Well, we have a lot of families at home who are sharing their thoughts, so let's go back to Monty for that.
Thank you, Kim. To piggyback on that last question, one teacher who asked not to be identified writes, I have a student who's been in and out of trouble for over a year. That student has been caught by administration in multiple lies. The student continually talks trash with other students, then decides to get physical when he reaches a certain level. Now the mother is pressing the issue that her child is not the bully and is being bullied. What do you do in instances where the mother isn't willing to see her child as a bully? What do you do when the mother says he's reacting to how he's being treated by others? And how do you get this parent to believe and see that her child may actually be the bully? Thank you again for sending this in. And you can also still be a part of this conversation. Just send your questions and comments to newsdesk@kmph.com or to our Fox 26 Facebook page. Kim?
All right, thank you. So, Carolina or Abel, do you have anything to say about that? What do you say to a parent who says, no, not my baby?
I think it's important to realize that the parent is concerned for their child, and first we need to take a stance of that's where they're coming from. But it's also important to supply them with the evidence of your investigation, written statements from the participants, and really document the steps that you've taken to try to prevent and alter the behavior before showing them what the consequences were and why the consequences are going to be dealt.
All right, well, let's talk about that. We hear from families who say, you know, bullies just get a slap on the wrist. It's not, they don't have enough, the consequences aren't strong enough. Educators are not taking this seriously enough. So how would you like parents to know that these are being taken seriously?
I think one key aspect is to educate our parents on restorative justice and what that looks like. I think oftentimes they hear restorative justice and think it's in lieu of consequences, but it's really a balance between giving progressive discipline and restorative justice.
Okay.
And having those two work closely together so that when that doesn't solve it, you have a discipline plan in place to address those concerns.
Okay. Go ahead.
And to build off of that, one of the things that we approach is understanding, and I know it's hard, but when we think about it, behavior is a form of communication. And sometimes we forget that. And so if we have a parent that's, may say, well, that's not my son, regardless of what the parent feels, we should still be looking at that child's behavior to determine what is he trying to tell us or she's trying to tell us. Once we understand that, because one of the things we often say in our department is, hurt kids hurt kids. And so we are there to provide a service to all students. And so it's not us about slapping somebody's hand or whatever. It's about serving and supporting the students who are needing that support. Because if they had it all together, then most likely they wouldn't be the bully, right?
Yeah.
There's some type of trauma that occurred perhaps in their life that's causing that behavior. And if we address that behavior, then hopefully you will intervene to where the behavior stops.
Right. And one of the behaviors that's really, really hard every time to fathom, and that is when the bullying, a gun is used. And we often hear a parent or a family member say, but my child, he was such a good boy, she was such a good girl, how could this happen? So have you, what do you say about, and what's your perspective, I'll start with you, Dr. Jakes, on, when it really escalates to something like that?
So wait, what's the question?
So, we hear often that the shooters or someone who may bring a gun or a weapon, I could say also, to school, that upon further investigation, it looks like that child was bullied and is now using a weapon to bully.
Yeah, I mean, the cycle of trauma is vicious, and I like what you said, this idea that hurt kids, and I really think that's the truth. The idea that, oh, he was such a good kid. Yeah, he probably was a good kid, but somewhere in their history, they were the victim of bullying as well, or some type of trauma or some type of hurt. And I think that's what we need to be looking for, is how do we stop this cycle of trauma? How do we stop it from even beginning, and let these kids heal rather than taking out their trauma on somebody else?
All right, cyber warning, and again using online and this cyber bullying. Quintina, can you talk about that and how do you help protect, or how do you teach to protect from that?
Protect from cyberbullying? I think in teaching, for a lot of parents, we may be seeing social media, and our generation, of course, there may be a fight and the things just happen and then we can see them. But now in cyberspace, it's almost as if it's happening behind the scenes, and parents may not know. But if they have an opportunity for maybe talking and having that conversation with their child, being able to open the doors for almost like we put on sunscreen and we know it's going to protect us from the sun, and we always put on sunscreen, but we always have the conversation of bullying, or we always have the conversation of drugs, we always have the conversation of allowing people to be different and be okay with that, then we have that door open so that they know, okay, when these things are happening to me, maybe I can go to my parent. And that's a little bit more of the prevention and the protection.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I really like that metaphor of, hey, sunscreen, protect ourselves, because that's something we can really, kind of envision. Dr. Jakes, these are children, and sometimes they are not thinking all of the steps past. But we talk about Instagram and gossiping and saying bad things, or taking a picture and maybe somebody in the locker room, or in an inappropriate picture. And the steps that happen after that, it goes beyond just a simple call out of a student.
Yeah, and this is where I see the consequences start getting very real. And you're right, when we were children, we were sometimes worried about changing in the locker rooms about who might see us, but now all children have telephones and cameras with them all the time. And I see this happening a lot, children coming to my clinic because somebody took a picture of them in the locker room and spread it around on social media to other kids in the class. In those cases, I've seen the police almost universally prosecute the children for possession of child pornography, because once you have that picture on your phone, that is child pornography, and then there's some serious consequences, and the children do sometimes go to jail and face jail time for that.
See, I mean, this has really taken it to another level that many people may not even think about. And we think that's really important. The child pornography charges, you say going to jail for it stays with you forever?
Well, usually until if they're a minor, it usually stays until they're 18. But up until that time, I've seen children be registered as a sex offender and have to go to a treatment program and things like that. Yes.
Wow. All right. Thank you. All right. It is time for another break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the urgency in this matter and, of course, more solutions. Stay with us.
You're watching Fox 26's Town Hall. Your voice, your future. Bullying in school. We'll be right back. Welcome back to FOX26's Town Hall. Your voice, your future. Bullying in school.
Of course, we know that our teachers and school staff are here for us to talk about this stuff. But we also know that sometimes it can be hard to talk to an adult, or anyone for that matter, about things like dangerous behavior or even our own thoughts that scare us. Stop It isn't just a movement to rally behind. It's also an app that you can download that provides a safe and effective way to be the first to say something when you see something. With Stop It, you have the power to help keep our school community safe.
Stop it means bullies don't have a place here.
All right, you're watching more of that video that Madera Unified produced promoting the Stop It app, which allows students to report bullying and other dangerous behaviors on campus. The district has been using this app for years, but it rolled out this video as part of a campaign to let younger and new students know about the valuable resources. They say, stop it. There is no place for this, but there are plenty of families, parents who say, I do not believe my school is responding properly. So, what do you say to that, Abel?
Yeah, and I think, again, these parents are really concerned for the safety of their child, and we need to validate that concern and take every action to prevent it. But also we need, again, to educate them on the steps that the school does take and really educate them around the systems that are in place that schools walk through in order to prevent bullying. And the consequences that are involved with those who choose to continue to bully and aren't open to any other forms of resolution.
During the break, I told everyone that I was going to ask you all, so please do share a moment about that.
And to add to that, sometimes I think that parents are just so upset that they forget that the other person is also entitled to privacy. And we as administrators cannot violate that privacy of the other person as well. So we have to keep that in mind when we share information with parents.
Good point. All right, Dr. Jakes.
Yeah, from my perspective, I work on the clinical side and not the educational side of it. But where I work in Tulare County, we're one of the poorer parts of the Central Valley. And sometimes it's just a sad reality that our schools are underfunded and they're understaffed. And a lot of times the schools are doing the best they can. They probably aren't doing enough. But sometimes it's just within the resources, that's what we have. And so helping the parents understand that, we can help clinically and we can help your child. And we can provide you services as well and help you deal with the situation and just provide as much support to the family as we can, knowing that the schools are doing their best with limited resources.
Thank you. Quintina?
I do think that's really important, and also educating the parents so that they know what process they need to take in listening to their child, believing them when they say they are being bullied, believing what they are telling you and who's involved, and taking note of that and being able to bring it to the school so that you have all of your investigation done as well. So when you are backed and you are backing your child, you can take that and elevate it however it's necessary.
Okay, Brian?
Yeah, and I think just communicating with sites. I know in Madera Unified, we've been able to bring those resources to a lot of our campuses to where we have at every elementary site now there is a school counselor. That's not normal in a lot of districts, but that's a resource that many of our students can access and have. We have behavior clinicians on our middle schools and high schools, so there are services that can help that. And I would just encourage parents that, we all have that innate protection over our kids, but don't worry about the consequence of the other student, but let's focus on what that student needs, and sometimes being open to taking the school counseling or services that the school is providing to give that opportunity for that student to be able to build up those resiliency skills to combat some of those things that they're experiencing or feeling on their campus.
Okay, Brittany?
There were a lot of really phenomenal and amazing things shared, so I'm not sure how much more I can add to that, but I would absolutely reiterate that confidentiality is obviously a very real thing, and it's something that's very important to schools. But the most important thing to our schools is always physical and psychological safety. That is a discussion that happens constantly through all of our trainings, through all of our staff meetings. So that is at the forefront of our minds with everything that we do. And if there is reason to believe that your child's safety is in danger in any way, please reach out. If you didn't get the response that you were looking for, if you If you feel like you need to go back and have a discussion again, the door is open. Our administrators are always happy to talk with parents, to share as much as they're able to, but also understanding that sometimes that's limited. But again, considering those protective factors, considering what it is that we can do to come in and support the student afterwards, because we want to ensure that we can't control what happens as far as when there's an interaction or a conflict that takes place, but we can control coming in and supporting our students afterwards.
Okay. Quintina, this is traumatic. You know, and maybe the adults don't see it as much because they're not feeling it themselves, and they're also not, you know, children. How do you help families help their children who are truly traumatized?
At the point that the child is not able to be resilient or be able to bounce back, then of course reach out to your mental health support. But in the home, the parent being that support and listening and hearing and understanding what that child is going through, it's really important as parents that we don't necessarily take that thing personal as they're telling us, but listen and allow for them to have those feelings and be able to feel that, so that they can tell you exactly what it is and know that you are in that support position. Because like we were saying, the behavior is demonstrating a need. That need in the home is that they need that connection, they need that support, they need that security, socially, morally, emotionally, just be there with them and offer that for them.
Okay. Thank you. Let's go back to Monty to hear more about what our viewers are asking and sharing. Monty?
Thank you, Kim. A parent wrote in asking us not to use their name. They wrote, what is a parent to do when a higher level school administrator, educator admits to being aware of a student being bullied? However, the educator is set on removing the victim from the school and not addressing the bullying and bullies themselves. Thank you, by the way, for sending this in. We do appreciate your time. Kim?
All right. Would anybody here like to make a comment on that?
I mean, I do see this happening really often. I mean, I guess in my experience, the children that come to me are the ones that are the victims of the bullies. I wish parents would bring children who are bullies to me, because there's a lot I think I could do to help them, but they just never come to my attention. But it is true, what I see is the school's solution to the problem is to remove the child who's being bullied and send them to a different school. And sometimes that just re-victimizes the child and kind of helps them feel even more ostracized from their friends and from the situation, and I think sometimes can worsen the situation.
Okay. I told you an hour was going to go quickly. Now we're already to the point of our closing thoughts. So Abel, I will start with you and we'll go down the line also of what is something you'd like to finally share with our audience tonight.
I would just like to share that schools are on the side of the parents. I think sometimes there's this idea that it's the school versus the parent, but we really don't want to work hand in hand with the parents to solve the solution. No school is perfect, but we are all trying to battle bullying with the resources that we have.
Okay, Carolina?
And that it's important to show empathy to others and to teach our students empathy, and hopefully that would prevent the bullying.
Okay, Dr. Jakes?
I think I'd like to send a message to all the parents out there, whether your child is a victim or a bully, and just be mindful of how you're behaving around your children, because children are looking to us as adults for how to behave around other children. Okay. So act kindly in front of your children.
I have less than a minute, so Quintina?
Social skills, social skills, social skills.
All right. Brian?
To take time as a family just to connect. So even you as a parent, put the cell phones down time and just build those social skills and those connections.
Brittany?
I would say that as a parent, understand that sometimes your child's coming to you from their perspective, and their perspective may or may not always be accurate. And so reaching out, asking questions, being willing to collaborate with your school, I think is one of the most important things we as parents can do.
Thank you so much. And again, thanks to all of you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thanks to our sponsors, Future Kia of Clovis and Kauai Health, for helping us in this tonight's town hall. And thank you for joining us. Fox 26 News at 10, and tomorrow on Great Day, we will be looking forward to joining you. And also remember, always go to kmph.com for resources. Have a good night.
Thank you for joining Fox 26's Town Hall. Your voice, your future. Bullying in school.